I was out in the desert with a party, a group of people, and I was handing small amounts of mushrooms to everyone, basically. And every time I handed somebody mushrooms, I ate some with them. So by the end of the night, I was on half an ounce of mushrooms.
Hello and welcome to the Trip Sitting Podcast, where we explore what it means to be human. On this episode, we have Farmboy Slim, who is a psychedelic harm reduction advocate and everybody's favorite mushroom-looking guy on the internet. I am really happy that I was able to get him on, and really grateful for the conversation that we had about psychedelics, about harm reduction, about what he's doing in the space, what he's done in the past, what his plans are for the future. And yeah, just some really, really good insights that I think everybody can definitely learn from. And not only that, but also just enjoy the conversation. It was a lot of fun too. So thank you all for tuning in again. If you wouldn't mind making sure that you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss any of the latest episodes. And then also, if you could make sure that you have given this podcast a rating so that way we get in front of more viewers, and make sure that you're following us on social media, which is at tripsitting.blog on Instagram and TikTok. Now, that is all I got for promotions and all that other stuff. So here is Farmboy Slim. Farmboy Slim, welcome to the Trip Sitting Podcast.
How's it going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. So the first thing that I do have to ask is, how was this character Farmboy Slim actually born?
Man, he was born of someone else's idea. My friend gave me the name Farmboy Slim, and I'm guys I was making music with. And then about a year later, we were about to release a song, and I'm like, man, these guys are really good, and I just don't really want to be. I don't really want to be like famous like that anymore. So I got to find a way to just like cover my face up in case something that we do together pops off. And then I'm like, I think I want to make a mushroom hat. I just decided. I just decided, and it all kind of came together really fast. And then the first day that I put up a TikTok video. I got like 10,000 followers. It was pretty crazy.
Damn. Also, another question having to do with the suit. Does it get hot in that suit?
It gets whatever temperature is the temperature, like the ambient temperature.
Okay.
Because what it does is flattens all your hair. And so it removes that barrier of air that protects you from the elements. So like if it's cold, it's cold. If it's hot, it's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also curious too, I guess, like why, if something did pop off and you guys were famous for whatever reason, I guess why wouldn't you want people to know like who you are sort of under that?
Well, I spent a lot of time wanting to like throughout my early 20s, like wanting to like go that path. And as I've aged and just gotten more, I guess, mature in my own feelings, it's just something that's not interesting to me anymore. Like I've had like brushes with it with people, and it's just like seeing the way that people treat you. And I mean, there were other reasons at the time, like I wanted to protect the people that I was around. But those people are no longer in my life, so that's not really an issue anymore. But just like seeing, so when I go to events, right, I'll do events, and like a lot of people there know who I am as this version, and I walk around and everybody wants to get their 5 minutes, and everybody treats you a little bit different just because like you have a little bit of clout or whatever.
Yeah.
And then later on, what'll usually happen is I'll be on a break and I'll take the suit off somewhere and I'll go walk around and I'll be looking and talking to all the same people, and they have no idea, and they treat you completely differently.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they don't give a fuck about you. And I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like this, it's like a LA culture type thing
Definitely.
where like,
Yeah.
yeah, they don't. like it's a really good reminder to go from like this like little bit of celebrity to nothing again, and it really reminds you that like, oh yeah, that the suit is able to very quickly remind me that these people don't care about me.
Yeah, that's like a small ego death experience, like in and of itself.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I remember the first time, the very first time I went out into public like this, and like a few people noticed me. Actually, even more than this, the first psychedelic festival that I went to, where like a lot of people knew who I was,
What festival
and
was that?
it was the Oakland Psychedelic Conference.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, and a lot of people knew who I was, and it was I was talking to for hours. I was talking to people, and then when I left, I took off the suit and I walked away, and I just felt like that whole like rush of like endorphins and adrenaline and shit. I felt all of that just crash, especially as
Hmm.
I walked past people that I knew but they didn't know me, and
Yeah.
realizing like cuz I have the recognition in my eyes now, but they don't have the recognition in their eyes. And that crashing feeling of, oh, this is like I wonder what it feels like for like a superstar to lose their fame, you know, because that must be such a fucking trip. I understand like people like could lose their shit over something like that, when I can feel such like an emotional change just from such a small like sample of it.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think some people get like truly, truly attached to that. Like they don't then know who they are if they don't have that fame once they get a little bit of that clout. Like people spend their whole fucking lives chasing that.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting existence, and I think interesting, like especially for you to be able to kind of move between worlds, if that's the right analogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I actually I like it a lot.
Hmm.
What I am gonna do though, soon, is I'm going to expose my mouth because I'm writing a ton of music. I'm a rapper. I was a rapper long before I was a mushroom,
Hmm.
and I just you can't emote through a suit. You
Yeah.
know, like for especially for like videos and things where there's the music's playing, like you need to see the mouth. And so I'm kind of gonna Batman it.
Is that what why you're doing the hat 3.0?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
the
gotcha.
new hat is going to be a very like it's going to be noticeable, like extremely different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to kind of go back to, I guess even before like Farmboy Slim in the suit, I guess when was your first experience with psychedelics?
When I was 18,
Okay.
a friend of mine he showed me, he had a camera bag full of Pinellas Cinctulis that he had found. And he's like, check these out. And I'm like, I'm checking those out. I've always wanted to check those out. So yeah, basically the first chance I got, I decided to use them.
So 18 years ago. So that would have been, or when you were 18, that would have been
So
about 16 years ago.
yeah, coming up on 16 years now. Yeah.
Okay. And then have you had a pretty consistent relationship with mushrooms since then? Have you done any other psychedelics since then? What's your experience been, up until now?
So back when I first started, so I spent pretty much most of my life in depression, basically from the time I can remember up until probably about 27. Um, and using mushrooms was the first time in my life that I could that I felt like alive and aware, and like just even a semblance of happy. So in the beginning, I went and abused them and chased that feeling. You know,
Yeah.
I used them way too fucking much. And it's not even the amount that I was using them, it's how I was. It's because
Hmm.
I was like hoping that they were just going to make me feel better.
Yeah. Like eventually, if I do this enough, I'll stay here without
Yeah.
having to do any work.
But no, things get weird like that, you know?
Hmm.
And then I was also, I was using I used acid plenty of times, never as much as I used mushrooms, but
I was the opposite. I was always I loved acid. Like that was the first thing that really got me into just psychedelics in general. Now it's more mushrooms than it is acid.
yeah, why is that?
I says to me, like acid is always been a much more like external experience and like helping me sort of connect with my external environment. And I didn't really think I had like a lot of, you know, terrible internal things like to deal with. Like I just had no concept of that. And so but like I knew that there were just, you know, I'd get angry at just like the tiniest little things that people would do, and like I would need things to be a certain way, and it wasn't until I took acid that I really realized all of those things. Like it sort of allowed me to observe myself in those situations, being like, normally I get really mad right now, but now I'm not. Maybe I don't have to get mad ever. Like even when I'm not on acid, I can still just do this. Like this feels a lot better.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just helped me really love, you know, my environment and life for what it was. Um, and I probably just wasn't really ready for the deep inner work quite yet.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea about the inner work. You know, there were no it doesn't seem like that long ago, but there were no like what we're doing did not exist then.
Yeah.
Like even 15 years ago, 16 years ago, my only resource for understanding psychedelics was basically like talks that I could download from Terrence McKenna, my friend,
Mhm.
and shroomery.org. Basically, you know, that was it. And it was the Wild West, and I found a lot of really bad advice in all of it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
like listening to Terrence McKenna, like as a kid, you don't realize just how like how much that guy like how much like knowledge and experience and thought that guy put into
Oh,
everything.
it's every word, every sentence he says has so much meaning behind it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely like if you really sit down and just listen, like I could listen to a 5 minute speech of his and it could take me like 4 hours to actually comprehend it.
Yeah. He yeah, God, and he is so good with words. His elucidations are just like immaculate, you know?
Hmm.
I remember reading, I haven't even finished the book. I'm pretty dyslexic. It's hard for me to like really read.
Hmm.
Um, but the beginning of Food of the Gods, he's like describing this one shamanic experience that he had with like I think a shaman in the Central America somewhere.
Hmm.
And just the way he described it was like, wow, dude, that is really really profound. I wish I could remember the words. But it was so good to listen to. Other times I hate him. Other times I can't stand the shit he's saying. I'm like, dude, you couldn't be fucking farther from the truth.
Hmm.
But like he comes from the dark ages of this shit, you know? Like he was a pioneer, so I understand like getting certain things wrong,
Yeah.
you know?
And that doesn't and also too, like just because somebody has certain viewpoints that you disagree with doesn't mean that he doesn't also have, you know, viewpoints that you 100% wholeheartedly agree with.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, yeah, he's his contribution is prolific and undeniable.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
was he the first, I guess, sort of like person, you know, within the psychedelic, you know, movement, I guess, that you had heard of and sort of, you know, connected with?
Yeah, pretty much. I think he
Hmm.
was the only one. Like I mean, I've heard you know, you hear about like Dennis Leary or Timothy Leary.
Timothy Leary.
Dennis Leary is a different guy.
There's there's Dennis McKenna, who's Terrence McKenna's brother.
Dennis
Yeah,
McKenna. He's still around, I think.
yeah, yeah. Dennis is
Um
still around.
Timothy Leary is the acid guy,
Yep.
who I never really I felt like he was probably the one of the least responsible individuals in that movement, where he was just
Yeah.
like, just do it. Just
Least
fucking go do it.
least responsible. Yes, I still have like I still have like a respect for him for what he did, because you know I think that there is some positive or negative, I don't really like to say, but there's some value in just saying like, guys, like just fucking do it and like you will understand. It's just during that time
Yeah.
when all of that was going down, I mean, it was just such a complicated era to exist in that I truly can't understand. But I do still respect his contribution to what happened. I think with or without him, we would have gone down the exact same path.
Yeah, the roles are there to be filled, and someone will fill them.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, like that's kind of like the same feeling that I had about myself and my own like content. I'm like, someone else would have done this if I didn't do this.
Hmm.
Like probably the same way. Um,
That's
and
interesting. I had the very same thought too. I'm like, somebody's going to start really putting themselves out there and talking about psychedelics in this
yeah,
way. And so like I love it. So why the hell shouldn't it be me? Like who, like who gives a shit? Just fucking just do it. Like if you want to do something, just do it. And
yeah,
also too, it doesn't matter if there's a million other people doing the exact same thing. Like it shouldn't make a difference. I used to always grow up like in the, very business startup world, and everyone would talk about ideas and be like, well, what makes this idea unique and different? And like honestly, half the ideas are not unique and different. It comes down to the people that are doing it and the intention that you have behind it, and that's what's going to make it last at the end of the day.
yeah. Also, I feel like, especially in this space, because we're in an age of coming to like a legalization point for this stuff.
Hmm.
I think like the more people doing it, the better.
Yeah,
The more we can normalize the like responsible ingestion and
responsible
use.
ingestion, and then also responsible discussions about it, like
Yeah,
not having to hide the fact that you are having these experiences. That for me was the biggest like liberator, was being able to find people that I can talk to about this.
hmm,
But yeah, so
yeah, yeah.
you focus a lot on harm reduction. So when did that aspect of psychedelic use start really, coming into the conscious forefront of your mind?
So, it was only a year or so before, about a yeah year and like 15 months before I started doing Farmboy Slim,
Hmm.
that I had even come to a place where I felt like I really had a good grasp on like the mushroom experience. Like I like somebody said something to me once. It was January of 2020, and he said to me, I watched this guy just take like half an ounce and not even bat an eye and then go about his night. And I'm like, oh, you can just do that? Because like I had so much experience with it, but I never like really cognized that kind of use before.
Uh-huh.
And just watching like how like he was just completely fine throughout the entire night and just could just interact normally with people. I'm like,
Hmm.
holy shit.
I mean,
And
was he still at least like, did he look high as fuck?
not really.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I'm like, what's going on here? And he's like, well, you see, I'm a professional. And I'm like, oh, that's a thing, I guess. I mean, you're living proof right now. I'm watching you.
That's
Um,
Yeah, that's I mean, I can certainly interact with people in public and like, have a good time and have conversations, but like I'm still very clearly like high. Like
yeah.
it's like
Uh,
I'm not scared of, like, I'm talking to you, but like the wall might be changing into 8 different colors behind you. I'm just like okay with that. But like that's definitely still happening.
oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, so up until that, like that was a turning point for me watching that, and then over the next 3 months, I never did anything. I didn't do anything like, actually, you know what? I did take like probably the next weekend. That was my largest trip. I took half an ounce. I was out in the desert and ended up
Hmm.
taking half an ounce. I was this was kind of like the beginning of my, I don't know, like kind of,
Metamorphosis.
yeah, where I was out in the desert with a party, a group of people, and I was handing small amounts of mushrooms to everyone, basically.
Hmm.
And every time I handed somebody mushrooms, I ate some with them.
Of course.
So by the end of the night, I was on half an ounce of mushrooms, and it was wild. I mean, it was fine,
Yeah.
but it was like, whoa. And nobody else was tripping nearly as hard.
No.
But like, it's the first time I would say that like I kind of not the first time, but it was the first time that I was like more intentionally like acting kind of in a shamanic way,
Mm-hmm.
where I felt responsible for everybody around me
Yeah,
because I was the one administering their experience.
of course.
Um, and so like I wanted to make sure that like I just had a piece of all of their experience with me while they were on there. Um,
I always also like I've definitely done that before. Never done half an ounce before. Maybe I'll do that and be giving people much smaller amounts throughout the night. And then maybe I'll end up on a total of like 3 or 4 grams or something. But I think also to me it's like if somebody does start having a bad time, I think they can take comfort, and this has happened where they can take comfort in the fact that I've done so much more than them and I can remain calm, and they can be
yeah,
like, okay, you know what? Like that's like, if I'm like, hey man, listen, I've done 10 times as much as you right now. We can relax together. Let's have this experience. I
yeah.
think that I think that is, in my mind, helpful.
Mm-hmm. But harm reduction never even crossed my mind up until literally the day that I became Farmboy Slim.
Hmm.
Um, just like the concept of it. Like I was already like formulating ways of just being responsible with psychedelics and using them the right way. And like I always like throughout my entire life, I've always tried to give people as much knowledge as I had to set them up for the best success that they could have.
Hmm.
But the first video that I put out as Farmboy Slim that got like 1 million views was an irresponsible video.
Hmm.
Um, it was talking about it was talking about Pinella cinctulis, the common like lawn mushroom, basically, that is one of the most common psychoactive mushrooms in the world.
Hmm.
But I gave pretty much no identifying characteristics of it. I was just talking about it, and like afterward, like after a day or so, it's like I realized I was like, holy shit, people might go out and just start picking fucking lawn mushrooms. That's not
Yeah.
good. So I deleted that video, like, which was hard. It was hard to do because it was so
Yeah,
exciting watching it.
I bet, like watching that video just keep going and going and going, and
Yeah,
comments coming in and all that stuff.
yeah. That high was interesting. It was something that I had looked for years before,
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad I took it down. That video itself could have got me banned right out the gate,
Yeah.
and it could have got people hurt, like, more importantly, because fuck me, right? But the just the idea, like, I mean, luckily there's no known poisonous Pinella species. It's pretty hard to, like, even if you misidentify it, it's pretty hard to hurt yourself. Like, these are
Yeah.
things that I know, but like nobody else knows, and it looks terrible.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was all around a bad idea, but I was able to rework it, and from like literally that moment on, I changed the entire. I was just like, oh, now I know what I have to do with this
Like the
channel.
entire idea of the character, like, oh, I can't
Yeah,
just be giving out information. Like, I need to make sure that people
I need to make sure
are
people are
fucking safe.
safe. Yeah, it's like it was an immediate dose of responsibility, and that's the thing where it's like, oh, I've never had this kind of responsibility before.
Hmm.
It's like, oh shit, now hundreds of thousands of people are fucking hearing the words that I'm saying, and if one of them fucks up because of me, that's serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just weight. That's a big weight. So I turned it right around into being just as fucking responsible and safe as possible with this.
Hmm. Now I like your videos a lot because like they're very real and they're very relatable. Like it just, I don't know, like the way that you talk, like it doesn't seem like you're trying too hard to put on airs, and like you're not yourself, basically thinking that like you're higher than thou. Like you're like, listen, like I do the same shit. Like this is a bad idea because I've done it. Don't do this too. I'm telling you from experience why you shouldn't do this.
Yeah, it's like I fucked around and found out. Here's my
Yeah,
findings.
yeah, exactly. Like you, and also too, you're not preaching at people. You're like, you can do the same, but again, like I've already found out, like, so you don't have to.
Like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's not a good idea. You do you, man, but I know.
But
You see the people who comment things that are like the people who comment things every once in a while, you get them where they're like, hey, just don't be a pussy and just take it. And like, I'm just like, yo, I like,
Oh
how
man.
many times have you tripped, bro? Like,
Yeah.
what have you undergone to like say that kind of thing to somebody, you
I
know?
I know that anybody that is saying that to somebody, like, and they're actually serious about it, like, has not actually gone through like
No.
real psychedelic journeys and transformation before.
They've had like a couple and it all went really well and they
Mm-hmm.
haven't run into any of their like darkness yet.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And again, like all of the ways that I took LSD in college, I'd take them and then I'd go out and party, or I'd take them and go to a festival or concert, and I'd have a great fucking time.
of course.
But like that was it. Like nothing bad ever happened. Not that anything bad needs to happen too, but like I never had to confront anything deep within myself. Like I would never say that I had any sort of ego death experience during my first 25 psychedelic experiences.
Yeah.
And so, but once you sort of have that experience, then I think that responsibility almost just kind of falls onto your shoulders of being like, oh shit, like this can be bad if people don't know what they're doing. Like now I see why people can have bad trips.
Yeah. I think I was lucky in that I never did anything catastrophic while in a terrible experience, because I've had plenty of terrible experiences
Mm-hmm.
throughout. Like I would say pretty mentally ill throughout my early to mid 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was probably the height of my like just pain in life. Um, People always said, "Oh, your 20s are great." No, they fucking sucked. They fucking sucked. I hated them.
Well, I do have a question though. Like looking back on it and now, being who you are and where you are now, do you look at that pain in a different way, or are you still like, fuck that?
I look at it as it could have been avoided.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as if I had had like anybody actually give a fuck,
Yeah.
it could have been avoided. Like if somebody would have fucking really talked to me,
Yeah.
you know?
But you didn't is the thing.
Yeah, there was
And so
nothing there. Like I
yeah,
had no
like
guidance.
yeah, I see, like I look at all of my pain and all of the suffering that I carried, and like that's what ayahuasca really showed me, was like all of that. But like I see all that and I'm like, yeah, that easily could have been avoided, but I also see it like I really did the best that I could given the tools that I had. Like I truly did. Like I did what I thought was best, and that was best at that time. But now it's my responsibility to realize that like I don't need to carry all this pain anymore. Like I can now choose to let it go. Like it doesn't define who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I've never used ayahuasca. It hasn't come around for me yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like the mushrooms might have like a bit of a
I think that
possession over me.
mushrooms and like people have definitely had like the very similar experiences with mushrooms as well.
Yeah.
I just happen to again just to be called ayahuasca and go to Peru and do it.
Bitchin'.
So that's what happened there. But no, I mean I fully believe that mushrooms can bring about the exact same changes and the exact same realizations that any of these psychedelics done if you do them intentionally. Like they're all just a tool, like to help us, turn off our minds for a second and figure out what's actually underneath. Like the difference between them, I don't know exactly how they work, but I think you can sort of get to the same place with all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know entirely, but yeah, I think you're probably right there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that like I can do some pretty solid work with mushrooms, like difficult things where I I think, because at this point in my life, in my journey with it, it's stuff I feel like I'm doing stuff that most people would probably need like a physician for.
Yeah.
Like the shit that I'm working on inside of myself. I'm like, this could go so awry for anybody with less experience.
Are you usually like doing it by yourself at this point, or do you like having some sort of trip sitter or someone around you?
Oh, if I'm tripping, I don't think I ever have a trip sitter. I
Yeah.
like 9 times out of 10, I'm tripping by myself. And if I'm not tripping by myself, it's in like a social setting
Hmm.
where like we're hanging out, you know?
Yeah, where you're not doing deep inner work.
Yeah, no, more surface level. Like you still have some like deep thoughts and stuff. Sometimes people,
Yeah.
like last, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I was out at the beach with some friends and well, new friends, and none of them even knew I was tripping for the first, 4 or 5 hours.
Mm.
Like I was just tripping out by the beach by him, and we were hanging out, and then like someone's like, "Whoa, you're on mushrooms?" I'm like, "Yeah, have been for a while."
Yeah, are you not?
Well, I didn't know what I was getting into. My friends invited me out to this thing, and I thought I was going to a party. And I
Uh-huh.
get there, and it was like, this is way more familial than
Hmm.
like it was all friends, but like friends that had known each other for like 20 years type stuff. And I was like, oh, I have to readjust my what I'm going like what energy I'm coming to this with.
Uh-huh. Get a little grounded. Um,
Yeah, but it worked out.
yeah. So I mean, also too, you're very clearly knowledgeable on not just psychedelic mushrooms, but like just mushrooms as a whole. So like, when did you start actually doing like research into just mushrooms themselves as a whole and gaining that knowledge?
Same time, 18, like
Okay.
right the so my friend who got me into it, um he had done all the hard work of figuring out how to like learn how to identify mushrooms all by himself,
Hmm.
and then he taught me how to identify mushrooms.
Got it.
And he for the first few years, me and him went just hunting together, and just you know found all kinds of stuff until I was able to, once you know what you're looking for, you know what you're looking for.
Hmm.
um I'm always stressing people be extremely safe because there are deadly lookalikes to a lot of different mushrooms. Primarily, but I learned what I needed to know for the most part, and then I kind of went my own direction. Like I got into cultivation for a while.
Yeah.
I did that, and then periodically I still go into areas of study mycologically. Like I have somewhat of a you know microbiology understanding of them. I did a good amount of mycological study back in the day, but it's not my main focus.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So do you still cultivate any mushrooms now?
No. I find mushrooms.
Okay.
I go foraging. That's kind of like my main thing. I love the hunt.
Yeah.
I love finding them. I love finding edible mushrooms. I love finding psychedelic mushrooms. I just like the rush of like that when you first, like, if you come up on like a big score of any type of like usable mushroom,
Hmm.
it's just like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the best feeling in the world. Like back in January, there was a ton of rains out here this year, and back in January, me, same friend, and I were out hunting all fucking day looking
Hmm.
for some kind. We were looking for chanterelles. Couldn't find, haven't found any chanterelles out here in a long time. But we came up to a ranch, and on the field there were like probably hundreds and hundreds of pounds of portobellos we came
Yeah.
upon like at the end of the day. And it was just like, I don't think we even ate any of them. It was just like
Hmm.
so fucking cool to find like a mushroom that we'd been looking for. It's like, yeah, we got one,
Yeah, just
and
knowing that it's there and knowing that I could eat this if I want to, and I just came upon this, like I just found this. I didn't go to the store and buy it. Like this
yeah.
is here that like the earth gave me. Like that's so fucking sick.
Yeah, it's super, it's so cool. uh and the other cool thing I love about it is that like so few people are actually out hunting.
Hmm.
you know I know there's other people out in this area that are hunting, because you can look on like the apps like iNaturalist, and you can see where people are finding mushrooms and stuff.
Hmm.
But it couldn't be more than a couple dozen total,
Yeah,
of people. Whereas you go to like the Bay, and it seems like it's probably 12 times that, you know.
yeah. You come out here to Denver, outside Denver, go up to Oregon. There's probably 100 times more.
Yeah, you're living in Colorado?
Yep.
Bitchin'. Yeah, that place seems pretty cool to me. It seems like a place I kind of want to go.
Dude, come visit for sure if you've never been. I mean, I just moved out here 6 months ago, pretty much on a whim. Um, but it's been pretty great so far. So I'm really really happy with it, especially for being involved in the psychedelic movement of sorts. I think it's a good place to be.
Yeah, Colorado's got that like intersection, like a balance of political views in a way, where you get like all
Hmm.
these freedoms that the right wants and all these freedoms that the left wants at the same time, and it's really neat.
A lot of people that call themselves libertarians out here. Uh,
Yeah, I mean I like the idea of libertarian, but I'm concerned that a lot of times when someone calls himself a libertarian, they just go really hard right.
uh-huh. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that is what happens sometimes.
yeah.
But no, it is interesting. I think people think Colorado and they immediately just think Denver, and they
Hmm.
think like Denver liberal, like everyone in Colorado has these viewpoints, but like you get outside of Denver and like you are in like the country basically. Just our version of the country just happens to be very very mountainous and incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. Well, that's the same shit with California. You're in the cities and it's hyper liberal,
Exactly
but as soon
too.
as you're 30 minutes out of a city, everybody's Republican. It's just that there's
Hmm.
so many people in
Yep.
LA and so many people in the Bay. Um,
Yeah, that it can really skew things for the rest of it.
yeah, there was something I wanted to ask you. Fuck. It'll come back up. It'll show back up. Um,
uh, I wanted to ask you too, kind of going back to the harm reduction. I guess when you're going into a journey by yourself to like do some inner work, do you have sort of like a checklist that you'll go down just to make sure that like what you're doing is about to be safe?
um, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
Um, a lot of the suggestions and guidelines that I lay out online are kind of things that I've had to like dig into myself to find because they're kind of automatics for me.
Hmm.
Um, I find myself doing the safe, like I don't think about the safety things. Like the one thing that I remind myself of is humility.
Hmm.
I remind myself that I need to approach and treat the medicine with humility. Other than that, like all the other things are kind of second nature.
Yeah.
Like, but I have a cocky nature, so I have to temper that.
One of the biggest, again, like now not so much. I think again, just once you've done it so many times, again, a lot of these things just come subconsciously because you're kind of used to it. But I remember one of the biggest things for me when I was first really experimenting with psychedelics is sometimes it can get really intense, and like I'm like, oh holy like I don't know if I want to keep doing this. Is the reminder of like this will end eventually. Like
Yeah.
eventually, like I will not be in this state forever. Just knowing that, eventually, if I'm not having a great time or something, knowing that this will end, that would bring me a lot of comfort.
Have
In the beginning.
Have you ever forgotten in
The,
the midst of it that it
no,
will end?
no, no, never. That's
That's good.
that sounds scary.
Yeah, I've found myself in psychedelic spaces before where I'm like, oh, this is all time, all that ever was and will be.
This is it. This is existence. Yeah. See,
Yeah,
I think that that's existence once we die in these bodies. I think that that's what we're going to. But
perhaps.
here at least while I'm still here, I can get back.
Yeah, if that's the case, then I can understand a strong argument for reincarnation because God, I get bored in those states.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Once you're there forever, it's like fuck. Like I need something. I need to
I need
feel.
some spice. Yeah,
I need some pain.
yeah. Like this eternal nothing is cool for a minute, but then I got to get back into a body, man.
Yeah, exactly. As much as we think that sounds like the idea of heaven
Hmm.
is being in that nothingness, painless, voidless place, like you get bored.
Yeah, yeah. I know I do. Like it's like a pseudo schizophrenic feeling
Hmm.
where it's just like that. It happened when I was on that half ounce. where like with the last like 5 people were up, and like I had this perception that like, oh, these are everybody. And like I'm them and they're me and this is it.
Uh-huh.
And like I felt like a knocking coming from like a higher room, but I couldn't quite access it.
Mhm.
That could be a 20 gram trip, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I ever need to do that, is the thing. That's the other thing. I advocate so often for low dose trips because
Mhm.
I feel like you can get so much just emotional work done in a smaller container, and like taking it step by step rather than having a giant realization all at once and then having to fucking put those pieces together.
Yeah, like a lot of the time for me, like if I'm taking psychedelics to kind of do some more of that work, like a lot of it I've noticed now is kind of just maintenance, like realizing that like there's just a lot of stuck emotions that are still in me that I'm not letting out as they come, and it's just being able to just let those out and sort of remember a lot of the past work that I have done, but it's not, so many giant realizations now, and I think that once I once I came back from ayahuasca, I was expecting to have just more like insane realizations, like fuck, I need to change this, I need to do this. There's all this trauma from the past, but there's I I think we're a lot simpler than we want to believe.
Yeah.
There's not as much as we think there is. It's a lot of much simpler things that we need to do, such as again just let the emotions out as they come. Like that's why I'm such a big advocate of just trying to live as presently as possible, is because that allows you to just do that as it comes. And ideally we'll live in a world where you don't need psychedelics unless you just want to have fun and turn everything up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean sometimes, yeah, that's fine, I again, it's one of those things where like I can't advocate for that kind of usage online or else I will be banned.
Yep.
But I love doing that. I love having fun, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's always fun regardless of what you're doing. Like
Hmm.
it feels good. It's interesting. It's cognitively like just enriching, and that's fun. Um, so yeah,
I think too there's a lot to the fact that we don't see having fun as like a good use of
like a
time too.
useful
Like
thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like it's just like such a fucked up way that society views things. Is like
yeah,
if you're not using these things and there's not a medical value to it, then it has no use in society. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Half of the thing, like 90% of the things that we do, like granted they're just brainwashing us, but like it's just to pass time, like watching Netflix, watching sports, going to concerts and stuff. Like that's all just fun things to do to pass time. Like what is the productivity in that other than, pumping money into the economy, which I'm not going to go down there, but like
I don't know enough about it.
yeah, exactly. I just simply don't know enough, but like taking mushrooms and going out in the forest for 6 hours and just having a grand old time, like that's a great use of time. That's a better use of time than I think most things are.
Yeah, and binge watching a TV show or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
um, yeah, we get. I was listening to this recently. This shaman. His name's, I think it's Martin Prechtel or something. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but I think he's Mayan or
Hmm.
Aztec, or I think whichever one's not the culture. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. But the guy's like the real deal. He's really dope. And he was talking about like his village and how there's no crazy people in his village or in that culture or society, because if you see a person out on the street like wailing in grief, it's somebody who's expressing grief over something, and
Hmm.
everyone's okay with that and accepting of it, and someone will bring them into a house and give them a shower, and like if someone's passed out drunk, they'll give them new clothes and like give them breakfast the next morning. And he's like, and that just helps them, at least even if they end up in the same place the next day, it at least
Yeah.
set them out right and they could have another chance the next day, type of thing.
What a
um
fucking concept.
right, like it's because where we live, there's no sense there, we don't have that kind of community. We're too big,
Yeah.
and like America's we're full of the like we're all the individualists.
Yeah.
It's all the people that left their country, who we're the descendants of. And so yeah, it makes sense that we don't have a whole lot of like community, and we're always like we're trying to find that amidst a strongly capitalistic society.
That's really interesting thinking of it that like obviously I know that we're a very individualistic society, but I never thought of it in the sense that like I mean America, like we all fled from somewhere. We all left somewhere to be here.
Yeah.
Obviously except for, you know, the Native Americans, but and that's why I think, I mean, we still live in these pockets. Like every city has, you know, their Chinatown, Greek town, little, you know, like little India over here. Like, you know, there's all of these little pockets within cities because people are trying to create that community wherever they go. But we just can't quite figure out how do we have like a holistic community that just accepts everybody's differences for what they are.
Yeah. It's it is it's an extremely complicated problem that two people can't figure out. It's
What? You fucking kidding me?
Are you kidding me? We're here to solve all of the world's problems. I don't look at it like I don't look upon like so many people look upon like Western society or American society as bad or wrong. I just see it as different
Yeah.
than other societies. It's like people get lost along the way, but like nature, if I'm being trying to be objective about it, like nature is unkind.
Mhm.
Nature and does not care.
Oh yeah,
Like
for sure.
we're like there's very few species in the world that take care of each other, and we happen to be one of them. But we there's an extent to everybody's use, and when we're this big, we can't take care of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to think about. Like we would ideally like to think that like we can get to that place, and maybe we can, but like right now we're not there. And I think with psychedelics, like what I advocate for is like if everyone selfishly, and I mean this in a positive way, but selfishly just focuses on what is the best for me, I think that collectively that's going to do the best for society.
Yeah, how do you mean?
Like if everyone really, again, like journeys inward, regardless of how they do that, I don't care how. It can be with therapy, it can be with meditation, it can be with psychedelics, it can be with none of those things. But like if you really take the journey inward to figure out like what is it that I love, like what is it that I'm holding on to that's not serving me, I think that just that connection to everybody else just kind of comes from that. And then you just understand how to be a better person, how to be more empathetic. And that does the best for society, like as a collective as well. But like you need to kind of selfishly like take the time to be like, fuck this. I'm not gonna take part in this outside external society thing right now. I need to take some time for myself, and then you can figure out how do I integrate that back into society, and again collectively just sort of raising the consciousness of society.
Definitely. Yeah, I was just listening to a talk about just kind of like the power of like words and how they affect your subconscious, and you're just talking about like raising the collective consciousness of society. The just like just using the proper that's just reminded me of like using the proper speech just for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like using positive talk instead of negative talk because your subconscious doesn't care.
Yep.
Apparently, this is what I've heard.
So I've been told.
So I've been told by other people who sound like they know what they're talking about. Of course, lots of people are good at knowing what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's true though, and there's little things that we can do like that again, like I think a lot of our society, like we want a quick fix, like that's the thing, and psychedelics I think have gotten so much attention because it seems to people think of it as like, oh, this is the quick fix, but like it'll quickly show you some things, but like as far as actually then fixing that and integrating them back into your normal life, like it's no faster than anything else. But it'll help it come to the forefront of your consciousness, I think, faster than a lot of other things. But as far as then doing all of the work to then again make it whole again, like that's no faster.
No, yeah, it's a more they're a more effective tool than what we've previously been given, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you still have to do all the work yourself.
Yeah, it's nothing's a quick fix, but like that just reminded me you saying that like tiny little things that I can't remember reading this article. Like it might have been like a BuzzFeed article, but I like the point that it made. But even in like little ways that we talk, like in emails, like if you take a while to get back to somebody, instead of saying like sorry for the delay, instead of that saying thank you for being patient. Because like when you come from a place of sorry, like that's immediately like putting yourself lower than like the other person. Whereas when you say thank you for being patient, that's coming as equal. Like both of your time is just as equal as the other one. And so like just again, little things like that I think really can make a difference.
Yeah, just in the way like you perceive yourself even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, man, I think this is it. This is the end, the natural draw that was going to happen eventually.
Cool.
And before we go though, I guess is there anything that you want to promote? Any last thing that you want to say?
Oh, I love that you have Be Here Now behind you. That's cool. That's a good book.
Yeah.
How new is that copy?
I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I want to like I only got it like 6 months ago.
Oh,
but
cool. Does it have a on the spine? Does it have a price?
I can check. And for those that don't know what he's saying, it's the Be Here Now book. The price, no, it's not.
Oh, okay. So back in the day, if you got another 1 minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Back in the day, like when that book first came out, I don't remember if I think the very original copy did not have a price on the spine,
Mm-hmm.
but like either the first or the second iteration of it had the price $3.33 on it, and it was a $3.33 book. And it was like that for a long time. And then there was a $6.66 book, and then I think $9.99, and then it went up to like $14.14 or something. But like you can tell almost immediately like they're collectible at this point, where if you get a book and it says $3.33 on it, it's like, oh, this is one of the fucking originals.
Yeah.
You know, like if you can find one signed by fucking Ram Dass, they're probably like $5,000 or something. I don't know.
But... Oh, I bet they go for so much, and it just goes so against everything that he taught.
Yeah, right. Well, it's because too I've looked them up before, and all the ones that are signed by Ram Dass, he didn't do book signings. They were signed and given to someone.
Yeah, you know? Got it.
Like he was signing them for a friend.
Mm-hmm. And yeah. Oh, anyway. Well, man, thank you. Thank you again for coming on, man. I appreciate the conversation, and blessed to have you on, and thank you for everything you're doing for the psychedelic community.
Yeah, thank you too. It's good. Let's do it again sometime. I'm gonna become more active with my own, like I'm really getting closer into podcasting. Mm-hmm. So I've always wanted to have more of a community with the people that are already in the space, you know, against their will, even, you know, just come on, let's go.
I'm always game, man. I think there's always enough room for everybody that wants to do something, regardless of what that is.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to start a psychedelic podcast, start a psychedelic podcast. You want to start writing more, start writing more. You want to do humor, harm reduction, whatever the fuck, like just do it. Like the more people we have, I think again, it's better for the community as a whole.
Definitely.
Hell yeah, brother.
Alrighty.
Much love. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See ya.
Thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you Farmboy Slim for coming on the podcast. That's all I got for you this week. So we will see you next episode. Thanks everybody.